There's been a massive uprising in this country and across the world among farmers, a global farming movement as people, farmers obviously, seek to keep control of an industry and way of life that seems to be, like many things, becoming co-opted, politicized, centralized and controlled in ways that are astonishing and extraordinary and normally masked behind the language of good intention, environmentalism and the condemnation of farmers as racist is being practiced right now in Germany, the Netherlands, Sri Lanka, your country, I reckon, and certainly in ours. One of the other things I'd like to comment on is that our Labour Party, as I'm sure you're aware, being as educated and informed as you are, is now essentially another globalist, neoliberal outfit led by a globalist in the form of Keir Starmer. Now, I reckon you're right when you're talking about the potential of right-wing populism to rise in this country, but we are seeing, indeed, Steve, I should tell you, somewhat undergirded by anti-war sentiment, a rise of figures way to the left of the Labour Party, which isn't hard, comparable to what we saw in 2017 around the rise of Jeremy Corbyn, who's, I know you know, but for our listeners, and viewers, a kind of, say, Bernie Sanders, but less corporatist, less financially strung, more idealistic. There's, for example, and you may not have heard of him, a politician called George Galloway, who's just been elected in the north of our country, who I would describe as a populist. He don't like the term leftist anymore. He's planning to stand enough candidates to cause a dent in the presumed majority of Keir Starmer's Labour. I wonder what you think when figures from the left that are populist are gaining traction, presumably in the case of Rochdale among the Muslim community. I wonder what you think, Steve, about the necessity for cultural differences to be respected within these nativist projects. For when we say things like American communities in British towns, that's not coded to mean, oh, we don't like people that have got different outfits on. That is about working people respecting, loving one another, respecting native or Christian culture, as well as the other cultures that live alongside them. But perhaps more tactically and importantly, I wonder if you consider that if you're in a war against the globalist establishment, peripheral forces that transcend the former lexicon of left and right are going to have to be formed. There's people in my country like Andrew Bridgen who come out hard on the vaccine issue and's been kicked out of the Tory party. You've mentioned Nigel Farage, and not to populate this nebulous question with further matter, but when you see the rise of Bobby Kennedy in your country, do you not feel that there is room for truly independent movement outside of the Uniparty, whether much of their culture and heritage appears to be derived from the left or right, as long as it is genuinely about ordinary people from those countries?
Look, George Galloway, I happen to know him, and I met him, I think it was in Kazakhstan years ago when we were at a conference together speaking. He's a very, not just bright guy, I think he's one of the best orators out there. And so he's going to give a real voice to this. The one thing I think the difference in right-wing and left-wing populism, I think where populism like Bernie Sanders, we often have the same directional approach to the elite, and particularly the taxation of the elite, how much they should own as far as assets go, et cetera. I think we differ in that we don't believe in more state ownership. We think there's a problem with state ownership of entities. One of the problems I think we have with the arms industry today and the biopharmaceutical industry, they're almost nationalized industry. You've had elite merger in that regard, not just elite capture. You have these quasi-state institutions. That's why biopharmaceutical industry is so powerful in the United States, and particularly powerful with the progressive left because it underwrites it. It's a reason the defense industry is so all-powerful in our country. It's the reason we have $1 trillion defense budget that we should never have. $1 trillion just from one country we should never have. The one thing I do think differentiates the left and the right, and I think the reason the populist left has a tough time getting traction here in the United States is this topic of immigration or migration, or what we call here in the United States an invasion of 10 million illegal alien invaders. Bernie Sanders and the populists, even as short as a decade ago, were more fervent than the Bush administration and the country club Republicans about keeping out migrants or economic migration because it drove down wages. The one thing that's happening today in the United States is the head of the Federal Reserve, and the Biden regime are very open about why they want so many migrants into the country. So many, we call them illegal alien invaders. It's to drive down the wages of working class African Americans and Hispanics. That was their theory of the case, to bring down inflation. And now, if you look at our budgets and all these massive deficits, they have baked in 10 million illegal alien invaders into the permanent economic model of the United States, because they understand that this will drive down wages, and the more government assistance they get, even with the small wages, they spend almost every penny of it. And as you know, somebody's very focused on health and great food. These folks, unfortunately, are the ones that buy the Cheetos and buy the Oreos, and they see that the corporatist elites see that as a benefit. They've baked it into our gross national product that there's $7 trillion of economic benefit in our latest CBO report, right to the illegal alien invaders. So they make it so that it's almost hard to take it out of the system, and the only people that get hurt are the people farthest down the chain. This is why your audience should understand. Why do we have so many black men today that are looking to even give Trump a chance? And I'm saying not vote for Biden, but even give Trump a chance, are Hispanic men. It's just not the assault on the family or the assault on the male. It gets back to economics. They understand that they're now forced to compete with the entire world that we let in through this border, and they're revolting against that. I think this is why you're seeing the Democrats are so freaked out. The elites are so freaked out, because now our coalition is really taking some of the basic foundation of the AOC and Bernie Sanders left. The Bernie bros are coming to our side.
Thank the Lord we can bring you this content because of the support of our sponsors. Support them if you can. Today I want to talk to you about Field of Greens. It's the healthiest thing I do every day, and I want you on this journey with me, side by side. It's literally one scoop a day. It tastes great. My favorite is the original flavor, and it's completely improved my life. This is nutrition the way that nature intended, in a scoop. Here's what I noticed since I started taking Field of Greens. Way more energy over the course of the day. Sleeping better at night like a baby. As you know, they're truculent and difficult at night time, so I sleep better than one. Healthier hair and skin. It helps with my digestion. My stomach feels better. I feel better overall, and I think healthier and stronger. Field of Greens is radically different. Each organic fruit and vegetable was medically chosen to support the heart and vital organ health. I trust Field of Greens to keep me healthy. I promise you're going to love this product, but if for any reason you don't, they'll give you 100% money back guarantee. Now listen, I've got you 15% off your first order, plus free rush shipping. Visit brickhouserussell.com and use promo code BRAND. That's promo code BRAND at brickhouserussell.com. They'll know I sent you. Okay, let's get back to the story.
I think the same thing in England, which hasn't coalesced yet, is that in Galloway, remember, the one fly in the ointment here, as you said, cultures and societies as citizens living side by side. Let me just be brutally frank. The issue with Islam is not Islam. The issue with Islam is not that it's one of the five or six great religions in the world. The issue with Islam is the political Islam, which is Sharia supremacist. Political Islam thinks that Sharia law has to be supreme. And that is a problem. It's a problem in the Middle East. It's certainly a problem in Europe right now. It's going to be a bigger problem in France. It's a problem in the United Kingdom. It's a problem to the fact that you almost can't talk about it in the United Kingdom. It's going to be a problem here in the United States. The situation in Michigan, where the folks in Dearborn, and I'm not saying they're all Sharia supremacists, but the Muslim community, the Arab community, refused to vote for Biden and put him on notice because of Gaza and the handling of the situation of the Palestinians. They won't. It is mathematically impossible for the Democrats to take the White House or keep the White House in this regard if they don't win Michigan. And right now, President Trump's up 8 points in Michigan. And that is because there's a significant amount of Arab Americans that are just saying, we don't support the Biden regime in this regard, and we're going to stay home.
Yes, and Bobby Kennedy is also very popular in that state, and it does seem to be a significant interface in that particular campaign. There's so many things I want to cover, Steve, but just let me touch on. Yeah.
Can I say one thing? I'd like to say one thing about Bobby Kennedy, because I think Bobby Kennedy started, and I felt that, although I'm a Kennedy Democrat as a little kid because of being Irish Catholic, right? When you just never even conceive. I come from a blue-collar working class family. The conception you would vote for a Republican would almost be like you would leave the church, right? It was that ridiculous. Bobby Kennedy, I think, started out and had a tremendous message. And that message was, I never seen an individual with such clarity about the biopharmaceutical industry and the power it has exerted on modern society. And he was, to me, the most powerful voice about techno-feudalism and what techno-feudalism really was about. I think, unfortunately, fortunately, as a Trump supporter, because I'd always hoped that at one time we could actually blend the Kennedy movement, particularly the anti-vax part of it, which has a big portion of the MAGA base. As you know, I'm not vaxxed. We were the most adamant. We were banned. We were banned on every platform, never to return because of our election denial and because of vax. That we could see a fusion of MAGA and what Bobby Kennedy stood for into a movement that really could be 2/3 of the populace of the United States. Now, unfortunately, I think Bobby and his team, as he got shut up by the Democrat Party and ran as an independent, he's almost run to the left. And so now you're right. He's a dagger to particularly with Shanahan. I think it's Nicole Shanahan, his vice presidential pick. He's a dagger at the heart of the Democratic Party right now. He almost takes very few Trump voters, very few MAGA, even the strong anti-vax nature of and the anti-biopharmaceutical industry part of the MAGA, which is a very large part, I think would pass on Bobby Kennedy now to support Trump very strongly. But Bobby Kennedy's a dagger at the heart of the Democratic Party. If Bobby Kennedy gets access, and they know this is why they're coming down on him so hard. If he gets access to the ballots, if he's on the ballot in those states, I think it's very hard mathematically, given the coalition of Biden is not coming there. The under 35s are hesitant. The African-American community, the male particularly, is hesitant. The Hispanic community is hesitant. The Arab American or the Muslim community is hesitant. His coalition is tough to come together with enthusiasm. You add Bobby Kennedy on top of that, I think it's a dagger to the heart of the neoliberal, neocon Democratic Party.
If we were to see the degree of subsidiarity that it appears to a degree that we both believe in, how can this be truly achieved when you have behemoths like the biopharma industry and the military industrial complex? Where is that regulation coming from? What do we do about the big tech monopolies and their evident, and indeed we've touched upon it, albeit fleetingly, ability to control and censor open conversation and free speech? How do you break those things down? With what mandate from where, using what force?
Europe is starting, but I think you're seeing here, even in this TikTok debate, these entities have to, first of all, two things have to happen. Number one, you have to begin the breakup, like you broke up the Bell system and other massive communications platforms we have. These companies have to be broken up into smaller pieces. We have to get back to their entrepreneurial benefit, not almost their state capitalism control. So they have to be broken up. Number two, a whole series of rights. I think people's digital selves. Right now, I think that people you have an analog self and you have a digital self. The digital self is almost raped and pillaged economically. I think that has to be much more controlled by the individual, that they're going to actually give those rights, and those rights are going to have certain economic benefits to them. This has to happen right away. The other thing is I took a couple of simple things. Number one, I think all TV advertising, like for pharmaceuticals, and I think in Canada and Britain you don't have it. In the United States, MSNBC and CNN is virtually, if you cut it on, it's virtually a little bit of news between biopharmaceutical advertising, right? It's unbelievable. That has to cease. I think all types of programming, all types of almost political support for that has to come away. You have to restrict their ability to advertise. You have to, and same with the defense industry. You cut on these Sunday shows and the thought-provoking shows in the United States, it's always Grumman, or it's always Northrop, or it's always the defense contractors. That has to be limited. You have to get their money out of politics to have a fighting chance. Then we have to have very tough antitrust, and I mean antitrust to the last part of breaking it down. Now, the hardest part, and the one that overlays our entire conversation we haven't gotten into, and maybe it'll be next time, this whole issue of transhumanism. We are literally, I think, 5 or 6 years away from the singularity. And that's just not AI. That's the convergence of CRISPR, biotechnology, quantum computing, advanced chip design, regenerative robotics, artificial intelligence, where on this side, you have Homo sapien, you have humanity. On the other side, at minimum, you have humanity plus, or what they call enhanced man. And I actually think leading to Homo sapien 2.0. That is the brightest line we've ever had since recorded history. It's going to happen in not just your audience's lifetime. It's going to be a major political issue in the next 3 to 5 years. That's why we must break the tech oligarch state. I am a proud, what I call neo-Luddite, right? I am all for, I would have treaties and stop this immediately, because I think what's happening in transhumanism right now, led by artificial intelligence, and you see the flood to capital in artificial intelligence. Well, once that happens, it gets out of control. There are things that are going to happen that are so far beyond the Shire's ability to control it, that it'll make a farce of everything else we're working on. All the other populist structures we put in and things to try to get down to subsidiarity, it'll be overwhelmed by this. And I'm to the point, I believe with some of these guys that you have to have actual, if you need to, direct military intervention into data centers, water supplies that would supply this. What is happening behind the scenes in these big research labs, what's happening behind the scenes in these big companies, and what's happening overseas in places like South Korea, North Korea, Romania, Russia, China, the CCP, you have no earthly idea how advanced some of this stuff is and how it's hurting. And once it comes, it's going to be too late to control. So and on top of all the issues we have, trying to take back and try to not be neo-feudalism, tech feudalistic, on top of that is really what could be the end of the human era. And I think that's why to be alive today is to say, hey, divine providence put me here for a reason, right? For every one of your audience members, what is that reason? And I think the greatest epoch in mankind's history, in the 10,000 years or 15,000 years or 20,000 years, is about to be upon us, and I think in the next 5.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.